There we go. Okay, so the first class of 2021, we are going to just ease ourselves back into everything and kind of remind our bodies how to do it all, how to move, because if you're like me, you maybe haven't done just as much as you hoped you were going to over the last couple of weeks. Okay, so let's just start off checking our standing posture points. So if you bring your feet to your hip width apart, so about 2 fist widths, toes pointing forwards, then your knees not locked, your pelvis in neutral, and roll up your shoulders back and down. Head held high, thinking about that thread holding you up towards the ceiling. And take a few nice preparing breaths. I've forgotten how to speak. I've forgotten how to do my Pilates voice. Okay, so breathing in through the nose and breathing out through the mouth. Breathing in, feeling your lungs expand, your rib cage expand, and breathing out as you contract in those lower abdominals and tighten and close the ribs back in. Give it a couple more breaths. And then just start into some nice backwards rolls of your shoulders. Good, and then just rest with your shoulders back and down. And we'll do a little stretching of the neck as well. So if you drop your right ear down towards your right shoulder. And then just turn the chin slightly so your chin is now just directly above the shoulder and you're looking back over your shoulder, looking right behind you. And then come back into the center and do the same on the other side. So left ear down to left shoulder. Just moving nice and gently with the neck. And then turning slightly, bringing your chin to the shoulder and looking round behind you. Lovely. And then back into the center. And then if you lift your hands, put your hands up on your fingertips up onto your shoulders and just continue with the backwards circles. And then trying to bring the elbows as close together in front as possible, as high as you can, and then sort of trying to squeeze your shoulder blades together in your back as you bring the elbows round behind you. Perfect. Good, and then let's release the hands and we'll go into some nice full arm circles. So a lovely breath in as you reach all the way up. And then breathe out as you circle the arms back and down. Breathing in, reaching up. Breathing out, back and down. Good, one more. Good, okay, then if you lift your right arm up towards the ceiling, and then just come down into a nice side bend, just reaching that left hand down the outside of your leg. And then come back up into the center, swap sides, lift your left arm up, and then stretch over. Good, and we'll do that a few more times, 2 more times on each side. Breathing in, breathing out. Hold and breathe in. And then contracting, connecting with those abdominal muscles, breathing out, coming back up to the center. Breathe in, reach. Breathe out, stretch. hold and breathe in. And breathe out, using your core to bring yourself back up. One more on each side. And back up. Is the sound carrying? It sounds like they're having a party in the kitchen down below me. And back up. Good. Okay, then palms facing up towards the ceiling. And we're just going to slide the shoulder blades back, getting a lovely stretch across your chest. And then release. Do that 3 more times. Keeping the elbows close into the body, so not letting them go out wide. And together, 2 more. And just watching that your shoulders don't start to creep up towards the ears, keeping them nicely down. And back. Good. Okay, let's move down to the feet now. So if we just do a little bit of rocking backwards and forwards. So coming up onto your tiptoes for a moment and then rocking back, lifting the toes off the floor. Good. And then alternating, so we get a little bit of a bend in the knee, okay? So just lifting your left heel off, then your right heel off, just shifting the weight from one side to the other. And then we'll bring the arms into it as well. And don't worry about what side you're doing, which arm or which leg. We're just trying to get the body moving, get the blood flowing, and get all our wee clicks out of our toes and ankles. Lovely. Okay, then if you can just transfer all the weight over onto your left leg, and we're just going to lift the right foot off the floor, hold onto a wall or a chair if you need to for support, and do little inward circles with that right foot or right ankle. And then change direction, outward circles. Lovely. Then we're going to swap over to the other side. So just shift your weight slightly. Lift the leg. And then inward circles. And outward circles. Brilliant. Okay, then moving up to the hip as well. So again, you transfer all the weight over onto that left leg. Lift your right leg, knee sort of level with your hip. And then do some nice big outward circles. So you can tap your foot down if you need to. But if you are able to stay balanced, then try not to touch your foot down in between. So do about 4 to 6 on one leg. And then we'll swap over to the other side. So get yourself balanced first. Lift up the leg. And then come into your circles. Brilliant. Lovely. Okay, then we're going to do some nice roll down and ups just to loosen out the spine. So take a nice breath in with your shoulders back. And then on your out breath, bring the arms forwards, chin towards your chest. And just feel the vertebra of the spine kind of falling forwards, one over the other. Come down to wherever is comfortable for you and take a nice breath in. And then on your exhale, you lift back up again, restacking the vertebrae on top of each other. Breathe in, shoulders back. We'll do a couple more of those. Exhale, round and melt down. Breathe in at the bottom. And breathe out, lift yourself back up. Good, one more, just exactly the same. Roll down. And then curl back up. Okay, perfect. Now, if you aren't already, just move yourself down to the end of your mat so you have your mat out in front of you. And we're going to roll down and then do a little bit of sort of down dog before we go down onto our hands and knees, okay? So shoulders back, breath in. And then on your out breath, roll yourself down. And then trying to keep the legs as straight as possible. Just walk yourself forwards. And then come into the nice inverted V, this downward dog position, okay? So you keep your hip and your bum still pointing up towards the ceiling. And you're trying to press your heels down towards the floor and bring your head down through in between the arms. So we're getting a nice stretch in the shoulders, a stretch all the way down the backs of the legs. And then repeat what we did with lifting one heel off the ground, what we did when we were standing. So just lift your right heel and then your left heel. Right to the left, just bending each knee. And then try pressing both your feet down towards the ground. If you've been upside down now for too long and you need to, just bring your knees down onto the floor. Just a couple more seconds of this nice back of the leg stretch. And then just bring your knees down onto the ground. Bring your toes together. Take your knees a little wider apart and push back. Bum towards the heels. And then stretch the arms forwards. Again, if this is too much on the shoulders, just relax the arms. See if you can just keep sort of inching those fingers forwards towards the end of your mat. You might want to bring your forehead down onto the floor. But again, don't worry if you're nowhere near the ground. Just resting wherever is comfortable for you. Take a couple of breaths here. Brilliant. And then come up and get yourself into your 4-point kneeling position. So with your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips. Good, so hands and knees are equal distance apart. And we'll just do a little bit of that lovely cat-cow to mobilize our spine again. So if you're moving with your breath, take a nice breath in as you look forwards towards the end of your mat or towards the wall in front of you. Push the belly down, push your tailbone up, getting a lovely scoop of the spine. And then breathe out, pushing all the air back towards your knees and your feet, tucking your chin into your chest and rounding over your shoulders. And just doing this, making this movement as big or as small as it feels good for you. Sometimes if you haven't been doing a lot of movement, it can feel really nice to do really big stretches, you know, and sort of get all the creaks out. And then other times, if you haven't moved so much, it's better just to go really, really slowly and gently, but only you know that. So just pay attention to how all the movements are feeling and listen out to any wee signals that your body might be trying to tell you, any wee messages. Lovely. Okay, now we're going to go into our arm and leg extension. So we'll start off with the right arm and the left leg. Okay, so nice breath in. And then on your out breath, slide your right arm and your left leg away, and then lift them up just to hip height and shoulder height. Good, and then bring everything back in. Hand under shoulder, knee under hip. And repeat the other side, left arm, right leg. And then lift, using the glutes to help get the height of the leg, but not lifting too much that you're starting to get that, scoop of the spine and leaning over. So you're keeping everything in the spine nice and flat. Good, and just keep on alternating then. Exhale. Inhale to bring them back. Exhale, extend. Breathe in, come back. And just take your time with it. Brilliant. Okay, we'll do one more on each side. Lovely. And then just take a wee moment sitting up on your knees just to do some little circles of the wrists, circles inwards, circles outwards. Brilliant. Okay, then we're going to come down into to do the mermaid stretch, so sort of into this Z position with the legs. If you sit in the center of your mat and have your legs going out to the left hand side, so your feet going out to the left, just however is comfortable. If this isn't comfortable, feel free to sit with your legs crossed or stay even on the kneeling position if that's more comfortable for you. But try and get your spine nice and upright, so you're not leaning the spine over to one side. Try and get it central with your shoulders down and your head lifted. Then take your arms out to the sides at shoulder height, hands facing down. Take a nice breath in. And then on your out breath, we're moving over to the right hand side. Hand and elbow come down to the floor and then reach up and over. Trying to get a nice curve in this side bend. Good. And then push back up in through the middle. And then come over into a little counter stretch. Just grabbing hold of the ankle or hand to the floor. Good. Back in through the center. Breathe out, stretch over. Breathe in, come back through the middle. Breathe out over to the other side. Lovely. And back through the center. And over. And again, just going nice and slowly. Try to go a wee bit further each time you do the movement, the stretch. Breathing out. Over to the left. Breathe in. Shoulders down. Watch me don't get all hunched. Good. Breathe out over to the right. Breathe in through the center. And breathe out over to the left. Brilliant. Now let's swap the legs. So if you take your legs over to the right hand side. And again, check that your spine is central. So try and sort of rotate yourself back into the middle of your mat. And then arms lifted, nice breath in. And then breathe out, this time over to the left, hand and elbow to the floor, reaching up and over, pushing this bottom rib up towards the ceiling. Good, breathe in, push back up into the center. And exhale over. Lovely, breathe in. And out. Breathe in and out. Good. Try and push a little further on these next two. Good. And last one. Exhale over to the left. Inhale through the middle, shoulders down, and exhale over to the side. Brilliant. Okay. Now if you can bring your legs straight out in front of you, you just adjust my camera a wee bit. Okay, so again, if this isn't comfortable for you, feel free to sit up on a little block or some, big thick books or something, or a sturdy cushion, or allow yourself to have a wee bend in your knees. But we want to think about having our spine again nice and upright. So if you have your legs straight, but you feel yourself sort of straining to hold your spine straight, adjust the legs so you can get your spine nice and upright. Okay, good. So if you are able to have your legs completely stretched out straight, if you can flex your feet, so you're pulling your toes back in towards the shins, this just gets the quads nicely fired up, so then they're helping you to stay in this position as well. And then let's just cross the arms over our chest. Okay, now breathe in. And then as you exhale, come into a nice gentle twist of the spine, looking over your right shoulder. Then breathe in through the center and breathe out, twisting over to the left. Good. And just keep on alternating, going with your breath length, using the exhale on the twist. And breathing in as you relax the stretch and bring your body back into the center. Exhale. Twist. And try not to let yourself lean back as you're twisting. So it doesn't need to be a big movement. And remember your Pilates core exhale. So every exhale, think about your belly button as well. And think about drawing it inwards, tightening, and holding those lower abs nice and tight in. Now we're going to add in a little arm stretch. So as you're twisted over to the side, just release the hands and take the arms out to that shoulder height. Then breathe in, bring the arms back to the shoulders. Exhale, twist to the other side, hold there and extend the arms out at shoulder height. Breathe in, bring the hands back to the opposite shoulders, body back to the center. Good, and just keep on going for another few of these. Breathe in, always checking in when you come back into the center that your shoulders are still down and that they aren't creeping up towards the ears. Also remember to check in with your legs. Are they still switched on? Do you still have your feet flexed? Are you able to use those thighs, those quads? Good, we'll do one more to each side. And back to the center. Good, and just relax those legs. You might want to bring the soles of the feet together and just take a wee moment just to stretch the inner thigh, groin area a wee bit. Just whatever works for you. Lovely. Okay, Then if you come round, and we're gonna just bring ourselves down onto our back. So if you start with your knees bent in the center of your mat, sitting up nice and tall, take a breath in, and then on your out breath, just round the spine and slowly lower yourself down onto the floor. Brilliant. Okay, now we're going to find neutral pelvis. So you might want to bring your feet a little closer in towards the tailbone, closer to the bum. And just take a moment, kind of tilting pelvis back and seeing how it all feels. So when you tilt the pelvis back, you'll feel your lower spine, the low back pressing down into the floor and your glutes lifting slightly. And then if you just release it back to neutral, you should feel a little gap, or a little less of a gap after Christmas for me, certainly. But still a little bit of lightness in underneath the lower part of your back when your pelvis is in neutral. Okay, let's add in the breath to this movement then, this little pelvic tilt. So take a breath in with it in neutral, and then on your out breath, just tilt the pelvis back, pressing that lower back to the ground and feeling the glutes lift slightly. And then breathe in and release. Breathe out, tilt. Breathe in, release. Breathe out, tilt one more time. And breathe in, release. Lovely. Okay, now we're going to do just some nice little leg slides. So I want you to get your pelvis into that neutral position. And if you just put your fingertips onto your hip bones as a little reminder to try and keep this whole area as still and steady as possible. Okay, and then if you just lift the toes on your right foot and just slide the right heel along the ground, straightening out your leg. And then slide back again and drop your toes back down onto the floor. Then slide the left heel away, straightening out your leg. And then bring it all back. And really concentrating here on holding this pelvic area really steady. And back. Good, so exhale, slide heel away. Core muscles are tight. And then bring it back. And keep on alternating right leg, left leg. And back. Okay, good. Now you can maybe put your hands down on the floor either side of your body. And we're just going to lift the legs into tabletop position. So lift your right leg, hip at 90 degrees, knee at 90 degrees. And then lift your left leg, hip at 90 and knee at 90. Then lower your right and lower your left. Now switch. So lift your left leg, lift your right leg, lower your left leg, and lower your right leg. So hopefully slowing all of this down and having had your hands on your hip bones, you're really tuning into how the body is working, which muscles you're firing up as you lift these legs into tabletop and let them lower down out of tabletop. So I want you to think about this little gap or lightness in underneath the lower part of your back. You might even want to slide your fingers in there as a wee reminder. So as you lift your leg, the first one, nothing really changes. But as you lift the second one, you should feel a little bit of pressure on that lower spine. So you'll feel the lower back just pressing down ever so slightly. Just changing which leg you start with, if you can remember. Good. So one more. Okay, good. Now just give the knees a nice wee hug in towards the tummy and a little bit of a rock from side to side just to release that lower back a little bit. Okay, now we're going to try some heel drops and toe taps. So if you can, if all of that felt okay, we're going to just lift the legs up into our tabletop position, and this is your start position now. So we're going to start off with some heel drops. So if we get our feet flexed again, so toes are pulling in towards your shins. Take your breath in, and then on your exhale, contract in, tighten in those lower abdominals, lower the right heel to the ground, and then lift back into tabletop. And then the left side, and back. Right side, and lift. Left side. Good, now think about your spine. So how is it all feeling in the middle of your spine? Is there any arching? Are you finding that the back of the ribs are starting to lift off? If so, just take a moment to readjust and maybe don't lower your heel the whole way down to the ground. Okay, so we want to keep the back of the ribs fully connected. And our core muscles switched on. They're working hard as you do this wee exercise that looks so easy, but is actually quite challenging. Brilliant. That looks good. Couple more. Nice, slow, controlled movement, both on the way down and on the way up. Good, now relax again, just giving the knees a nice little hug in and rocking a little bit on your spine. Good. Okay, then starting with feet on the floor, pelvis in neutral. Lift the legs back up into your tabletop again one more time. This time with toes pointed. Unless you're cramping, then just relax the feet. So then we just, on the exhale, we tap the toes on the right foot, lightly down onto the ground. And then the left side. And back. Right side. And back. Left side. And back. Good, and again, paying attention to the back of the ribs. Keeping that middle section of your spine firmly connected. If you're finding any arching, just don't lower the legs so low to the ground. Just a couple more. Last one on each side. Lovely. And then give those knees a nice little hug in again and a little rock from side to side. Good, we're going to do some shoulder bridge now just to try and stretch out the hip flexors a little bit as well as firing up our glutes. Okay, so feet down onto the floor, starting with the pelvis in a neutral position. Take your breath in. And then as you exhale, we come back to that pelvic tilt, tilting it back, but we keep on going. So then just start lifting your glutes off the ground, roll your lower spine off the floor and your middle section of your spine. Now we're getting that nice stretch over those poor hip flexors that we're feeling it after all of those heel drops and toe taps. Good, now take your breath in this top position and then slowly exhale as you lower your spine back down to the floor. Get that lower back touching and then release pelvis to neutral as you let the glutes come down to the floor as well. And again, exhale, tilt the pelvis back. Push your feet down into the floor, lifting the hips, lifting your lower spine, middle section of your spine. Good, squeeze into your glutes and just really press, try and get a nice stretch over those hip flexors. Inhale at the top, exhale, lower. And release to neutral. Good, and just keep on going, moving with your breathing rhythm and pattern. But trying to get a nice straight line here when you're lifted. So not, trying to get into a real sort of arch or back bend. We're just trying to give the hips a bit of a stretch and fire up the old glutes. Breathe in while you're lifted and breathe out to lower. Good, we'll do 2 more, so nice and slow. Trying not to let your knees fall wide when you're lifted. So keeping your knees at that hip width distance. 1 more. And really pressing the feet down into the ground as well. Paying attention to toes and heels and the sides of the foot. Trying to get every part of the foot pressing. And release. Good, and just give the knees another nice little hug. Okay, we're going to roll over onto our side next. And let's do a little bit of the climb. So we're going to have our legs bent. You have your hips stacked, one on top of the other. So you can check that by checking your knees. Make sure the top knee isn't sitting back. That means your pelvis is tilting backwards. So get your knees aligned, one on top of the other. Sometimes for me anyway, it feels like I'm leaning forwards, but actually I'm not, okay? So just check where you are. You might want to put your hand onto that upper hip bone as well. Now we're going to keep the heels connected. I don't mind, just again, sort of work with your own body. Do you want to keep your feet down on the floor? Do you want to have them lifted? Just see what works best for you, okay? Now take your breath in, and then on the out breath, open that top knee, but keep the heels together. Don't let your pelvis rock backwards, and release on your inhale. Exhale up. Use the glutes and lower. Good, and release. Brilliant. Now in this next one, lift with the knee in the open position. Extend the leg, pressing through the heel. Good, then bend, bringing heels together and close. Good, and again, open. Extend the leg, press through the heel, then heels together and close the knees. Good, 3 more of those. Lift, extend, bring the heels together and lower. Good, 2 more. Up, stretch, heels together and lower. And last one, lift, stretch, heels together and close the knees. Great. Now if you can extend both your legs out straight and just lower your head down onto the floor if it was lifted, or onto your arm, support your head with the arm. We're going to do the torpedo where we lift both the legs off the floor together. So if you need extra padding under your hip, go on ahead. Take your breath in and move on the exhale. Keeping your legs super glued together. Breathe in, release. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, up. And down. Great. We're working into our obliques as well and the core with this nice exercise. Good. Okay, now on this last one, lift the legs up and hold them there. And then we're just going to lower and lift the underneath leg 5 times. Up, down and up 2, down and up 3, down and up 4, down and up 5, and then with the legs together, just lower them both back down to the ground. Brilliant. Okay, we're going to do those 2 exercises now on the other side. So roll over onto your other side. We're starting off with our plan. So try to do the same on one side what you did on the other, if possible, just so you get a good idea of how even you're spread on each side. Okay, so checking your hips. And take a breath in, prepare, and then on the out breath, lift. Use the glutes to help you stop that pelvis from rolling back. Good. Squeeze. Okay, now on this next one, we go into the extensions. So lift the knee, stretch out the leg, pressing through the heel. Then bring the heels together and lower the knees. Lower the knee, close the knee. Good. Open, stretch, heels together, and close the knees. Good. 3 more times. Knee, stretch, heels together, and lower. Open, stretch, heels together, and close the knees. And one more time. Open the knees, stretch out the leg, heels together, and close. Good. Now stretch out the legs. Lower your head down if it was lifted. We go into our torpedo. Breath in, and then on the out breath, lift the 2 legs up off the ground, feeling this into your obliques as well. Exhale up. Inhale, lower. Exhale up. Inhale down. Brilliant. A couple more. Okay, now on this next one, lift the 2 legs and hold them there. And then we're just going to lower and lift the underneath leg for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then legs together, lower them both down. Brilliant. Okay, now we're going to roll over onto our tummy. And if you just bring your hands together so you can rest your forehead on your hands. Okay, so your elbows are wide. And let your legs sort of rest naturally apart, maybe about the width of your mat, so kind of out towards the corners of your mat. We're going to work just the legs first, okay? So we're going to lift both the legs off the floor together. So take a nice breath in, and then on your out breath, use the glutes, so squeeze into your glutes, and try lifting both the legs up off the ground, and then release. Good, and just keep on going. Exhale, lift. Inhale, release. Brilliant. Really working into the glutes with this. Exhale, lift. Inhale, release. Trying hard not to bend at the knee. And trying to imagine a little bit of space underneath your thigh as you lift the legs off the ground. Now lift up and do 5 little pulses. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower. Good, we'll do that again. So pulses from the glutes. Lift the legs. 5 little pulses. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Good, and again. Exhale, lift. Squeeze. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll do it one more time. Exhale, lift. And pulse. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Brilliant. Okay, now we're going to leave the lower half of the body out of it. So if you just bring your hands down now, they're probably level with your cheeks, but quite wide. So sort of hands maybe half on, half off your mat. Okay, now take your breath in. And then slowly start to lift your head and your chest off the floor. So you've got your ribs still connected. And then just see if you can lift the elbows, press down into the hands. Use your core, draw the belly button inwards towards the spine. Trying not to overly compress that lower section of your spine. So squeezing into your glutes as well. Shoulder blades down, try not to scrunch the shoulders up towards the ears. And then lower down. So adjust your hand position if you need to, just wherever is comfortable for you. Exhaling, lift. Use your core to protect that lower back. Keep your gaze on the ground. You're not trying to curl and look up towards the ceiling. And only lifting your back as far as is comfortable, as far as feels okay for you. Exhale up. And inhale down. So you don't need to have those elbows lifting off at all if that feels like too much compression in your lower spine. If you prefer just to stay here, keeping the ribs connected, keeping your tummy connected, then that's perfect. Good, we'll do a couple more. Lovely. Okay, then if you can, push yourself back up onto your hands and knees again. And we'll do a little cat stretch, rounding over your shoulders. Stretching out the back after all the extensions. Good. And then a little child's pose or shell stretch, where you push the bum back towards the heels and try and stretch out your lower back a little bit. So reaching those hands forwards. Good, and then coming back up onto hands and knees. And we're going to do some lovely circles of the hips. Really nice for the hips, but also great strengthening for the wrists. So with your hands under your shoulders and your knees underneath your hips, we're just going to start to draw really big circles with the hips. So pushing back to left heel, then over to right heel, and then coming forwards, putting all the weight over onto your right wrist, then onto your left wrist, Just doing these lovely big circles. And then let's change the direction. Good. Brilliant. Good, and then just kick your feet out to one side, bring yourself back into a seated position, and we're going to roll back onto the mat again, onto our backs. So sitting up tall, hands in behind the knees. Take a nice breath in, and then on your out breath, round the spine, lead with the lower back, and just bring yourself down onto the floor again. Bring your feet a little closer back towards the tailbone and get into your nice neutral pelvis position again. So adjust as you need to. Good. Okay, we're going to do a little bit of abdominal curl-ups just to finish. We're nearly done. So you can put your hands, rest your hands on your thighs. We're just going to try and reach the hands up towards the knees. Okay, so take a nice breath in. And then on your out breath, the first thing is tightening and contracting in of your lower abs to help protect that lower back. Now lift your head, drawing your chin in slightly to the chest, and then reach up with the arms, trying to get those fingertips up towards the knees, and lifting your head and your shoulders up off the floor. And then breathe in as you slowly lower back down. So everything kind of in slow motion just to make it harder. Okay? Breath in, and then breath out. Contract, lift head, tuck your chin, reaching arms up. See if you can lift your shoulders. Good, and then release. Add in 3 little pulses if that feels good for you. Otherwise, just keep going just as you are. So 3 pulses is exhaling, lift up, and then just seeing if you can go further on those little pulses. Trying to move with the body rather than just stretching the arms. Exhale, lift. If you find your neck is straining, lift one hand, put it behind your head, which can sometimes just help you to really focus on the abs and less on the neck. Just a few more. Only adding in those 3 little pulses if you want to. Again, the movement doesn't need to be huge to be felt. Good. We'll do 2 more. Exhale, lift, pulse. Good, and 1 more. Breathing out, lift head, lift shoulders, reach, and relax back down. Lovely. Give your knees a nice hug in again. And then keeping the legs together, so knees are super glued together, hands on your knees. Just start to draw nice circles in one direction. Maybe going clockwise first. And just feel the lower back getting a nice little massage on the floor. And then change the direction of your circles. Good, and then just drop your left foot down onto the floor. Bring your right knee in up towards your right shoulder, so a slight kind of external stretch. You're getting a little bit of a stretch on the groin, on the inner thigh on that right side. And then just slide your left leg out straight along the ground, getting a nice hip stretch. Try and relax the feet, especially if you're feeling any kind of crampiness or anything. And then we will swap, so bringing your left knee in for a hug up towards the left shoulder. And then stretching your right leg out long. Just feel how that intensifies the stretch. You might want to change where you're holding this left leg. I find bringing my right hand down to the ankle of my left ankle and sort of gently pulling in while still pulling back and out on the knee. I find that gives me a really good stretch, but just feel free to kind of wiggle around in your own body and see where you get a nice stretchy feeling. Good, and then just bring both your feet flat down onto the floor. And we're going to finish as we began with some nice mindful breathing. So you might want to put a hand on your chest and a hand on your belly, or just hands by your side, whichever you prefer, whichever helps you to connect more. Softly close the eyes if that's comfortable for you. And then take a lovely long deep breath in through the nose. Notice how the body moves as you bring the air into the body. And then exhale slowly through the mouth. And again, notice the movement in the body as you let all the air out. Do a couple more breaths like that, just focusing inwards. Brilliant. And then just in your own time, allowing the eyes to open again, or if you're watching back on the video and you have the time, just stay on the ground and breathe for a wee bit longer if you're able to and if you're comfortable. Otherwise, I'm going to hit stop on the recording and have a wee chat with everybody.